The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Bridges, Buckner, Coleman, Cook, Coram, Danielson,
Good morning.
Donovan, Fields,
Present.
Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hanson, Henriksen, Heisey, Holbert, Hawkes Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Kolker,
Thank you.
Lee, Liston, Lundeen, Moreno, Pedersen,
Excused.
Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott, Simpson, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story,
Here.
Winter, Woodward, Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. The morning roll call is 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused. Will the good senator from Colorado Springs please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Good morning, Mr. President. Members and guests, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before I get started on reading the journal, we have a new majority leader who is quite optimistic, but with all of the crazy bills, he is now going ballistic. On the JBC, he was a well-oiled machine. He fought for his ideas like a Marine, but he now sees the November polls and is becoming quite fatalistic. And with that, Mr. President, I move the reading of the journal of Tuesday, March 15th, 2022 be dispensed with and the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
For that, I do think a fine would be appropriate this time. We will take back that $1. You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes, I guess, have it, and the motion is adopted. Senate Services.
Correctly printed Senate Bills 156 and 157, correctly engrossed Senate Bill 141, correctly revised House Bill 1088 and 1102, correctly re-revised House Bill 1034, 1039, 1076, 1090, 1110, 1117, correctly enrolled Senate Bill 50.
Committee reports.
March 15, 2022, the Committee on Local Government has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirm members of the State Housing Board for terms expiring January 31st, 2025. Samuel Gerard Betters of Loveland, Colorado, to serve a Democrat and resident of the 2nd Congressional District, reappointed, and Jarrett Ryan Moses of Colorado Springs, Colorado, to serve as a Democrat and resident of the 5th Congressional District, appointed. March 15, 2022, Committee on Local Government. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1037 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 15, 2022, Committee on Local Government. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1040 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation, with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 15, 2022, the Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1044 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation. March 15, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 153 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 15, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 152 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 15, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 110 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 15, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 148 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 15, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1266 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 15, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 139 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 15, 2022, Committee on State, Veterans, and Military Affairs. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1086 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 15, 2022, Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1028 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 15, 2022, the Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1089 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 15, 2022, Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 138 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Finance with favorable recommendation. March 15, 2022, the Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1104 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation.
Members, we are joined this morning by President Brandon Schaefer here with a class. Please greet him and welcome him back to the Senate chambers. Introduction of resolutions. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 007?
Senate Joint Resolution 007 by Senators Fields and Gonzalez and Representative Herod and Caraveo concerning designating March as Triple Negative Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Joint Resolution 7 lay over till Friday, March 18th.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Joint Resolution 7 will lay over to Friday, March 18th, 2022. Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read the titles to all the bills on the consent calendar?
Senate Bill 141 by Senators Moreno and Kirkmeyer, Representatives Lynch and Valdez D. concerning making non-substantive changes to Title 43. House Bill 1102, Representatives Ortiz and Sullivan, Senators Gardner and Henriksen concerning protected classes and fair housing practices and in connection therewith, including a veteran or military status as a protected class.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the bills on the consent calendar, which includes Senate Bill 141 and House Bill 1102.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 141 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senate Bill 141. It's a very substantive bill, members. Senators Gardner, Scott, Liston, President Schaefer, I'm sure you have missed Senate humor in your life, but you will have a taste of it once again today. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1102 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Cook, Heisey, Rankin, Kirkmeyer, Sonnenberg, Simpson, Priola, Woodward, Coram, Scott, Minority Leader Holbert, Lundeen, Jaquez Lewis, Liston, Bridges, Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Buckner, Lee, Winter, Janal, Zenzinger, Donovan, Danielson, Story, Majority Leader Moreno. Please add the president. Third reading of bills, final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1088?
House Bill 1088, Representative Valdez, D. and Will, Senators Liston and Lee, concerning peace officer status for certain Department of Revenue employees.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move for final passage of 1088 on third reading.
Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in cautious support of House Bill 1088. I'll be an aye vote. I do want to note, though, for those who care most about liberty, this bill is about requiring or authorizing post-certification. My friend from Weld County, the former sheriff of that county, knows a lot more about post-certification than I do. One of the more frustrating conversations I've had during the past 12 years as a member of the General Assembly was with a retired law enforcement officer who was advocating for a bill that would allow retired law enforcement officers to carry concealed for the rest of their lives. And I supported that conversation. But my question was, can members of the public, could I pay the cost to go be post-certified? And the answer was no. I don't think that gentleman was in a position necessarily to provide the definitive answer, but my older son has accomplished post-certification, proud of him for that, and it's something that I think that we ought to make more available to the public. Not as a required training, but I would suggest that requiring these government employees, these government officials to be post-certified is a different conversation from are they allowed to be armed. So I ask for an aye vote. I believe 1088 is a good bill and deserves my support, and I hope you will too.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1088. Are there any no votes? Senators Gonzalez, with a vote of 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1088 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators. Minority Leader Holbert. Cook. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's been a request to remove Senate Bill 144 from the consent calendar. That'll be placed on the regular general order second reading of bills calendar.
Senate Bill 144 will be removed from the consent calendar and will appear on the general order second reading of bills calendar. Which then brings us to general orders, second reading of bills. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, regular calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the general orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Hansen will take the chair.
Remind myself how to do this. Can I use the chimes intermittently?
The committee will come to order and the coat rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills on the general orders, second reading of bills, regular calendar?
Senate Bill 144 by Senator Zenzinger, Representative Kipp and Rich, concerning the provision of transportation services by a transportation network company not in connection with the business operated for profit.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 144 and the committee report.
To the committee report.
We fixed the definition of TNC to also align with the existing definition that is already in statute.
All right, is there any discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the motion before us is the adoption of the Transportation Committee report. Is that correct? Transportation Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, what this bill is about at its heart is that we have a gray area in statute that we need to correct regarding TNCs and their ability to contract with public entities and nonprofit organizations. So what is a TNC? It's a transportation network company. Think of Uber, Lyft, Hop, Skip, Drive, those kinds of organizations. When we're talking about public sector, what are we talking about? We are referring to local governments. We're talking to about DRCOG, for example. We are talking about county departments of human services. We are talking about school districts. We are talking about any type of public entity and or nonprofit. The reason why we need to address this gray area in statute is back in 2014 when we first addressed the issue of TNCs in the state. There was an amendment to the Transportation Network Company Act that was adopted by the legislature. It was an amendment that was offered up by, at that time, Representative Diane Mitch Bush in the House. And what it did is it created this exemption of regulation of those TNCs that contract with these public agencies. We have since reached out to Representative Diane Mitch Bush to understand a little bit more about the background of that amendment. And she sent in a sworn affidavit that talks about the origin of that amendment. I'm going to read for you a little portion of her sworn affidavit. She says that the language of Amendment 45 was requested by local governments on the western slope of Colorado that provide call-up transportation service for individuals with disabilities and by limousine services that pick people up and take them to the airport. These local governments and limousine service providers told me that the purpose of the amendment was so that they, the local government itself and the limousine services, would not be classified as a TNC and therefore subjected to PUC regulations. They did not indicate that the purpose of the language was to actually prohibit TNCs from offering TNC services to political subdivisions or tax-exempt entities, and I did not understand the language to have that purpose. So because of that, we are trying with this bill to remove that exemption so that we eliminate the gray area in which these TNC companies that are currently operating and contracting with these public entities can perform. So, for example, just to give you a little bit of a flavor of the nature of these contracts, I have a list here of a number of school districts, a number of county human service departments, organizations such as the Denver Public Library. I have here RTD that actually enters into last mile contracts with these organizations. I have a whole host of public schools and what they use these services for, why they want to continue to have access to these TNC companies, contracts, is to transport kids under the McKinney-Vento Act. The McKinney-Vento Act is a homeless act that protects students that are homeless, and it requires that we provide them transportation to their home schools. So if they are in a homeless shelter or if they're living with family perhaps, not in the district, they still have a right to transportation to school. That is what is provided to them by the McKinney-Vento Act. Unfortunately, many of our school districts cannot afford to send an empty yellow school bus from one district into another to pick up a single child. And so what they will do is they will do on a case-by-case basis contract with these TNC companies to go and pick up that student and bring them to school. In addition, foster youth. So when foster youth are placed in a foster home, that is entirely out of their hands, the students' hands, and we have a real shortage of foster parents right now. So oftentimes, students will be placed anywhere within the county and not necessarily in the same vicinity as their home school. So in order to ensure that there is not a disruption to that student's schedule, to their lives with their education, the school district will enter into a contract to make sure that they get a transport to school. The reason why school districts want to enter into a contract is to ensure that their guidelines are in place and that they can call them up at will. Because oftentimes we've had county service social workers, caseworkers that will be called to pick up a student in the middle of the night and place them in a situation that is out of their home. And in order to get that student from their new out-of-home placement the next day to school, they can't rely on the public transportation system to do that. That would involve possibly a young child having to take a city bus, transfer bus routes, so on and so forth. So it's better to contract with these companies so that they can have the assurances that the pickup is accurate and they know whom they are picking up. So these agencies are using these services for foster youth placements, for homeless youth. Some of these agencies are using them for domestic abuse situations in which they need to transport the victims to a safe place. DRCOG uses it for senior trips that provide non-medical emergency transport. That is because DRCOG entered into an agreement with a TNC. In particular, I believe the one that they entered into an agreement with was Hop Skip Drive, because their accessoride trips were eliminated through RTD. So they were trying to do gap coverage in some areas. Another example of a TNC using this service is Boulder County Human Services. They have a grocery access program, and so they contract with a TNC in order to provide that service. RTD actually has contracts with TNCs in order to provide last mile trips. And in particular, last mile trips with people with disabilities. Also, we have school districts that use these for a variety of purposes, mainly for IEP purposes, but sometimes they will use them for choice options or for career and technical education in order for that student to be able to have those kinds of opportunities. So, again, the need is great. These trips really are, they're spot trips, they are covering gaps, they are fully vetted by the entities that are making these contracts with the TNCs in order to serve their purposes and their needs. And we believe that until we resolve this gray area, these trips and these organizations will not actually be regulated. And nobody wants that. We feel that it's really important that all TNCs are regulated regardless of the type of trip or the user. And the non-profit and public sector users are critical to this picture. So with that, I would just highly encourage an aye vote, and thank you for your time today.
Further discussion. Senator Quorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Members, it's good to be with you this morning and talk about, I think, something that's very important, has been very important to me. The good senator from Westminster and I have been working on issues like this for Arvada. Did you move?
No, I've never lived in Westminster.
Well, in my mind, you're still in Westminster, so you're going to stay there. Thank you. We've worked on these issues for several years now. In the last year, I've working with all 178 school districts. And safe transportation of our students is vital. And I'm not going into the detail as the good senator from Arvada did, but it's vital that we pass this, I do believe. I believe it is another tool in the toolbox. So everything that we can do to provide safe transportation to our students, to get them to and from school, no matter where they are, what the need is, we need to approve. Ask for an aye vote.
Further discussion. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank my colleague from Arvada for bringing this bill, because this is an important topic, an important bill, and wholeheartedly recognize the needs that this is trying to fill. If many of you don't know, this came from a decision from an administrative law judge, the nuanced piece of TNCs, which are called transportation network companies, but technically it's a service. It's your Ubers and Lyfts. It's your platform that outsources to third-party independent contractor 1099 to do this service. And the nuanced piece of it is if you're a house to a place that you're considered a TNC. The loophole that was found in this bill with the schools is a lot of these are fixed routes, and you're not considered a TNC, which does not put you under the PNC. So that's what this bill's trying to fix. The unintended consequences, and while I appreciate where this bill's trying to go because I absolutely understand the need, is that it's a broader discussion because while this bill and the intended goals is to deal with this population, which is our most underrepresented and vulnerable population, is that the nuance piece is I don't know when anybody's ever heard of somebody asking to be put under the PUC. Currently, as they say, they can't do this work. Well, they're currently doing this work. For the Department of Education and departments, the Department of Ed has way higher regulations when you're dealing with handicapped people. Under the PUC, you do not have these same controls and standards. You're not required to carry first aid kits. You don't have to have training. You don't have to have the requirements to carry these people. And I think that's a bigger discussion. And also, the bill isn't carved out specifically for this type of population. This bill is a broader based thing, which I think is a larger scope and a discussion we need to have. Happy to have had some meetings with the sponsor of the bill. I am, at this point, with the bill stands, I think it's a broader discussion, and we need to look for some controls and some kind of rulemaking. Currently, as the bill stands, I don't believe there's any rulemaking under the PUC, and it will broaden this coverage from what we need to do. And basically, we're looking at a privatization of the transportation industry. So, bigger conversations to have. I am a no at this point. I know we're the first chamber, so hopefully some stuff will be worked on in the second chamber, but at this point I need to be a no on this bill based on the wording as offered. Thank you.
Further discussion. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thankfully, in regards to my colleague from Denver's comments about the complexity of this issue, thankfully, school districts in particular, still have their normal modes of transportation. So nobody will be forced to take a trip in which the type of vehicle would not be equipped to accommodate that person. And in particular, because that's a mandatory service that school districts must provide, so they will provide it. And it may not be through a TNC. Also, if it was through a TNC, districts will know who it is that they are picking up, and they will only be able to pick up that individual student because the contract that will be written is actually in the student's IEP. So it wouldn't just be some random student that one day decides that they want to take an Uber or a Lyft to school. These are for very specific cases where the passenger is a known entity and we understand what their needs are. So for example, I want to tell you about an example that is out of, I believe, Adams County, where there is a student there who has autism, and he has some pretty severe sensory issues, where he cannot actually take a yellow school bus because it is too overwhelming. The sounds, the smells, all of the starts and stops, the big engine of the bus. It's very complicated, and for that particular student needs an isolated individual trip. The district is enormously short-staffed, and they don't have anybody on hand that can go and pick up that student and bring them to school. So that is one instance where they have decided to contract with, in particular, Hop Skip Drive, because they specialize in transporting children, so that the individual that is picking this student up has caregiving background. That's part of the requirements to be a driver with Hop Skip Drive, which is in addition to the background check, they must have educational or caregiving experience, so experience working with children. And that's why it was such a good option for this one individual. There are lots of other types of examples, but I think you get the flavor of what I'm trying to demonstrate here. And I do appreciate many of the conversations and concerns that have been raised by my colleagues, because it did give us a chance to explore this policy a little bit more in depth and recognize that once this gray area is eliminated and these TNCs are all under the PUC, thankfully the PUC has a process by which we can dig in a little bit and determine whether we need to increase the regulations on school trips in particular. Unlike CDE, that does not have that kind of a public process in order to dig in a little bit and address the concerns that might be surfacing. So I'm very grateful for those conversations because it allowed us to better understand the issue that is before us today and how important it is that we solve this problem. Thank you.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You've pretty well heard the broad scope here and what this bill is all about. So let me focus just a little bit on one aspect. You've seen me on several foster care bills. You'll see me on another one yet this year. El Paso County, I have heard, has 17 different school districts. 17. I only come up with about a dozen when I'm using my fingers and toes, but in the foster world, when the children are removed from the home, often it happens at night. They will be whisked away to a safe place, and we can almost guarantee it will be in a different school district. Hop Skip Drive is one of those companies that will ensure that that child gets to return to their same school. They use providers that have at least 5 years in the business of dealing with children and children in stressful situations. Many of them are nurses picking up some extra money. Some of them are retired teachers. But it is imperative that we get these kids where they need to be to keep their life as normal as possible, considering that their world has just been turned upside down. So I would ask for an aye vote on this. These services provide an essential service in the business of children in particular. So I ask for an aye vote.
Further discussion on Senate Bill 144. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 144. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, pardon me, did
Mr.
not
Chair.
turn to the screen. Thank you for the reminder, colleagues. I'll now call on Senator Story.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too have strong reservations about this bill and the lack of regulation that is provided through the PUC or any indication that there will be additional regulation provided. CDE has been regulating transportation services for students and has definitely addressed issues of vehicle safety and basic fundamentals about defensive driving, road rage, speeding, tailgating, et cetera, behavioral problems and concerns, confidentiality of student data and mandatory reporting, and many other elements. I'm also very concerned. There have been reports that also there has been training provided specifically surrounding these driving requirements, child securements, accidents, first aid, CPR, other student needs, behavioral problems, and behavioral concerns that are not required by the PUC, and there's no rulemaking surrounding that, nor does the bill address that. And I think it's imperative when entities are providing transportation for our public school students that these issues are fully addressed. And I don't feel this bill is ready to take that on, and I will not be able to support this bill at this time.
Senator Danielson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just thank the sponsor for bringing the bill forward and trying to address these needs, and also for her willingness and patience to work with the different communities who are impacted. I understand that there are still concerns that the disability community has here, and so I wanted to thank her for her willingness to work with them moving forward, and also to encourage the House members to do the same. We always need to make sure that we're doing right by the disability community when we pass policy that impacts them. So again, just thanks for our willingness to work on these issues moving forward, and hopefully we can address them as it moves through the second chamber. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Senators. Any further discussion? Seeing none on the screen or on the floor, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 144 on second reading. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it, and Senate Bill 144 is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion before the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number A bill under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 144 as amended, passed on second reading, and ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 144 is amended, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to take up tomorrow's second reading of bills consent calendar on special orders at the hour of 9:53 a.m. Colleagues, the front desk staff does not plan to distribute a calendar. As you can see, it's still on the first page of your calendar, where this motion simply entails the second reading of bills consent calendar that is listed for Thursday, March 17th.
A pair of Kirkmeyer bills, I see. The motion is that the Senate take up Senate Bill 143 and House Bill 1113 on special orders consent at the hour of 9:53 a.m., I believe. This requires a 2/3 majority. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. That motion is adopted. The Senate will take up Senate Bill 143 and House Bill 1113 on special orders consent at the hour of 9:53 a.m. Special orders, second reading of bills consent calendar. Senator Hansen.
Hey, all right. Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself in the committee of the whole for the consideration of special orders, second reading of bills consent calendar.
You have heard the motion by the lowly senator, merely just a senator. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the committee of the whole for the consideration of the special orders, second reading of bills consent calendar, and Senator Hansen will take the chair.
The committee will come to order, and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills on the special order second reading of bills consent calendar?
Senate Bill 143 by Senators Kirkmeyer and Woodward, Representative Pico and Lynch, concerning an update to terminology used to refer to the regulatory entity within the Department of Regulatory Agencies that regulates particular healthcare professions. House Bill 113, Representative Van Beber and Kipp, Senator Kirkmeyer, concerning amending the appeals procedures in dependency and neglect cases to minimize delay in achieving permanency for children.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the passage of the two bills on the special orders second reading of bills consent calendar, which consists of Senate Bill 143 and House Bill 1113.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills in the special orders second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and all of the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereof. Senate Bill 143 passed on second reading and ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1113 passed on second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
Motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 143 passed on second reading and ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1113 passed on second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate take up tomorrow's consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar at the hour of 9:58 a.m. on special orders.
The motion is that the Senate take up consideration of governor's appointments on special orders consent at the hour of 9:58 a.m. This requires a 2/3 majority. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate will take up consideration of governor's appointments on special orders consent at the hour of 9:58 a.m. Consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all the appointments listed on the consent calendar?
Members of the State Personnel Board for terms expiring June 30th, 2023, Kimberly Dempster Nalio of Denver, Colorado, occasioned by the resignation of Roxanne White, MSW of Denver, Colorado, appointed. F. Robert Lee of Littleton, Colorado, occasioned by the resignation of Karen Nimparco, CHRO of Littleton, Colorado, appointed. Members of the State Plumbing Board for terms expiring July 1st, 2025, Glenn Ray Ratliff of Arvada, Colorado, to serve as an employee of a local government agency conducting plumbing inspections, professional member, reappointed. Sunny Welch of Castle Rock, Colorado, to serve as a master plumber, professional member, appointed. Members of the State Electrical Board for a term expiring July 1st, 2022, Elva Diane Lynch of Commerce City, Colorado, to serve as an electrical contractor as a master's license occasioned by the resignation of Chad Kelly Dale of Ray, Colorado, appointed for a term expiring July 1st, 2023. R. Scott Roswell of Englewood, Colorado, to serve as a public member occasioned by the resignation of John Mullivan of Denver, Colorado, appointed for terms expiring July 1st, 2024. Gina Maria Cullen of Lakewood, Colorado, to serve as a master electrician who is not an electrical contractor, reappointed. And Joseph Anthony Montoya of Castle Rock, Colorado, to serve as a building official of a local government agency conducting plumbing inspections, reappointed.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of all the appointments on the consent calendar, which includes members of the State Personnel Board, members of the State Plumbing Board, and members of the State Electrical Board.
Is there any discussion? The motion is the confirmation of all the appointments on the special orders consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, All the appointments are confirmed. Message from the governor.
Tuesday, March 15, 2022, Colorado Senate. Honorable members of the Colorado Senate, pursuant to the authority vested in the office of the Governor of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to inform you that I have approved and filed with the Secretary of State the following acts. Senate Bill 15, Douglas County on Urban Drainage Flood Control District, approved on Tuesday, March 15, 2022 at 12:45 p.m. Senate Bill 19, Access to Suppress Court Eviction Records, approved on Tuesday, March 15, 2022 at 12:45 p.m. Sincerely, Jared Polis, Governor.
Announcements. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am pleased to share with my colleagues, this is the week of the visit from our friends at CSG West. A big thank you to everyone who came to the annual meeting that Colorado hosted down in Colorado Springs earlier in the fall of 2021. It was wonderful to be with so many of you down at that meeting. The director of CSG West, Edgar Ruiz, is here along with his colleague Martha Castaneda, the director of policy and international programs at CSG West. They're going to be here today and tomorrow. Would love for them to have a chance to get a few minutes with each of you to let you know about the programs and the materials available from CSG West. I found them to be very valuable in doing bill research, looking at cross-state comparisons, especially of our neighboring states here in the western U.S. The last thing to mention is that the Western Legislative Academy, which I had the pleasure of attending in 2017, those applications are now out and would love for folks to get involved with that. If you're interested, I found it to be a great way to sharpen legislative skills and get better at our jobs. So let me know if you're interested in that. And then finally, the CSG annual meeting is coming up in Boise, Idaho, July 19th to the 22nd. It is the 75th anniversary of CSG West. Would love to see you in Boise.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have consulted with the minority leader and the majority leader and request to be excused on, on Friday, March 18th, 2022.
Senator Cook will be marked as excused on Friday. Senator Story.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to announce that Capital Development Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in room 357.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Senate Judiciary Committee will be meeting tomorrow on adjournment rather than the regular 1:30 starting time. So on adjournment tomorrow to hear House Bill 1279.
Thank you, Senator Lee. I am the president, just so you know, not the chair.
And today we'll be meeting on adjournment.
Senator Lee, where would that meeting take place? I don't believe you said a location.
Today's in the regular committee room 352, and tomorrow will be in the old Supreme Court.
Try 271. No, sorry, Old State Library. 271.
271. We'll get this right, with overflow into the Supreme Court.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Well, let's get something straight that you can get on your calendar and know exactly when it is. Next Thursday night at 6 o'clock is the Steak Fry for Ag Day across the street at the Baptist Church. No questions on where it's going to be or what room it's going to be. It's going to be at the Baptist Church. Put that on your calendar. It'll be a great night. This Thursday or next Thursday? Next Thursday, Ag Day, the 24th.
Senator Henriksen.
Mr. President, I request a point of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I want to introduce you to the Belmont Elementary School Kindness Ambassadors who are here with us today. These elementary school students got together, organized themselves, put their collective efforts together, and raised funds for victims of the Marshall Fire. And I am so proud of them. And I want you all to know that your efforts and your selflessness is part of what makes our state great. It's that kind of attitude and mentality that makes our country great. And I am so proud to have you here today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, members of the Senate Finance Committee will meet today at 1:30 in the old Supreme Court. We'll hear Senate Bills We'll hear Senate Bills 120, 118, 1016, and 119 in that order. Thank you.
Further announcements. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adjourn until tomorrow, Thursday, March 17th at 9 a.m.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will adjourn until 9 a.m. Thursday, March 17th, 2022.